Hello? How is everyone? Can people hear me? We thought we changed the settings from our meeting last week. So I think microphones should be the possibility of you turning them on. Can someone see if they can turn their microphone on so I can tell if they're working? Anybody?
Yeah, they're all good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to just pull up our presentation. Okay, so we'll just start our slideshow. All right, so this is a little bit better. I can actually see a little bit of the chat box, but well, actually, I can't see the chat box. I can see some speakers. So again, if there's any questions throughout, it would be a lot easier for me if you just unmute yourself and ask the question. So today's presentation is going to focus on marketing your physiotherapy practice, which could be your own clinic. I also think a lot of the themes are applicable for those physiotherapists that find themselves working as an independent contractor, because either way, you still need to be aware of different strategies for marketing your physiotherapy services. So, for those that I didn't meet last week, my name is Jackie Sinkeldam, and I am the senior partner and founding partner of Eramosa Physiotherapy. Our clinic opened back in 1997. So like you guys, I am a McMaster graduate of many, many years earlier. I actually had worked in a physiotherapy practice in several different roles, reception, kinesiologist, and I did do some marketing before going to physio school. So some of this is, well, really all of it is my own personal experience. Going into physio, I did know that I wanted to have my own practice. That's where I saw myself, but I did purposefully take all my placements more in the public sector, which did for me reinforce that I did see myself in private practice, and I genuinely did have an entrepreneurial spirit, which I do think is important to recognize before you open a clinic, is to, what sort of stress you flourish in versus what kind of stress maybe doesn't inspire you. So not that I would necessarily recommend this, but for lots of different reasons, this was the way my journey went. 6 months after graduating from McMaster, I opened our first clinic. And I was lucky that, as I mentioned, I was working at a physiotherapy clinic earlier, and I did go into a partnership with a seasoned physiotherapist who hadn't done any of those other roles. So he could offer me some mentorship when it came to the clinical side of physiotherapy, and I was able to bring the experience that I had with managing the clinic. So here we are, 26 years coming up. We actually have about 50 physios. Our team is just shy of 100 employees, and still owned and managed by physiotherapists. So next slide. Okay, so this is us. We've made a living, and we certainly have enjoyed the change and the dynamic atmosphere of building orthopedic clinics that also have sports focuses. We were the first physiotherapy clinic in Guelph to offer pelvic physiotherapy services. And those are the brands that we operate under. So most of our clinics are branded as Eramosa Physiotherapy. That was the first clinic that we opened back in 1997. The second clinic we opened was on campus at the University of Guelph. So we represent the physiotherapy within the Health and Performance Center. About 6 years ago, we were the First clinic to uniquely offer a women's health services that did include pelvic physiotherapy as well as other programming. I guess it was even more than 6 years ago now. And we've just reopened a smaller on-campus site at Conestoga College. It has been closed for an extended kind of COVID period, but we have opened that. So we have all 10 sites opening again now, and we certainly have some future growth plans as well. So those are the cities that we're in. So 3 in Guelph and surrounding areas. So if you listened to the business plan talk last week, you'll remember that I suggested having part of your business plan being your marketing summary. And one thing that you would be highlighting from your marketing summary would be, what's your niche? And your niche could be defined as lots of different things. It could be your personal strengths or your personal relationships, your standard of care, your population, where your clinic is located. All of these things help the bank know, and you know what is your target market. For us, we really felt that it was our standard of care. Back in 1997, there was really only 2 other physiotherapy clinics in the city of Guelph that were in private practice, and they largely ran with a PTA model. And not that there is anything wrong with the PTA model, but our philosophy was that we were going to be exclusively physiotherapists delivering the service. So that was very, very unique to us. And, I'm actually really proud to say that if you look at the city of Guelph today as an example, many of the clinics that opened after us continued that philosophy. So it really, I felt, amped up the quality of physiotherapy. I've always called Guelph a little bit of a jewel for good orthopedic physiotherapy. So these were the components of our niche that would have been in our business plan. We talked about evidence-based practice. I'm graduated from Mac. I lived in that library looking for journals. That was how we, found out about how physiotherapy could help whatever we were researching. We talked about in the business plan that you could use those studies to give you some guidance for how long would you expect to treat someone. So if you're making revenue numbers, I always like to use the research to build out my revenue models. I don't really see the value in having a revenue number and then trying to figure out, how am I going to get clients to come that many times? I'd rather know what the studies say. So this was our niche: evidence-based practice, manual therapy and exercise, exclusive physiotherapy care. We also had a much stronger communication strategy than what a lot of our competitors did. So that included with communication with our clients as well as other healthcare providers. The other unique thing about our niche that hopefully the name speaks to it, right from the get-go, my business partner and I recognized that the clinic that we were leaving, I think, unfortunately missed the opportunity to allow physios to grow under their banner. So that's not going to always be a fit for everyone, but I think if I had been given the opportunity to grow underneath that banner, I might not have left on my own. So we really wanted to create a framework that really facilitated that professional growth. So when we talk about marketing, we have to think about we're also marketing to our own team. So that niche of evidence-based practice, everyone can say they are practicing that way, but proof is sort of in how you develop your programs. So we spent a lot of time looking at different joints in the orthopedic physiotherapy world as to where we thought we could make the most change with clients. And how we did that, and it certainly was not as easy as what technology offers today, is we went to those studies and we developed, and it's not rocket science, but this is interestingly quite unique to us, is that we educate our medical community through 2 pieces of research summaries. One we call an orthopedic reading, which I'm showing in this screen here. And the second is an evidence-based newsletter. So at least 3 times a year, our referring sources are getting information from us that is written for a medical provider as to how physiotherapy could support them in managing their clients. So that is one of the ways that we took that niche of evidence-based practice and made that happen. Now, there's little value if you're building a team to not take the next step. And that is what's shown in this picture, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But we needed to make sure that our team felt equally as knowledgeable about any deep dive that we did into the research. There was little value in for us when we were marketing Eramosa Physiotherapy for it to only be Jackie Sinkeldam that knew what, the studies were showing with rotator cuff tendonitis. We needed to make sure our whole team felt that same level of expertise. So we do that through our professional growth that we're going to talk about. And you can see Kristen mentoring some of our staff in that top picture. So communication, I'm not giving away any trade secrets. Anyone that knows us knows that we do this regularly. It's a little bit old school, and it's has evolved in some ways with technology. But right from the beginning, we always took the time to send a letter back to that referring physician that outlined what our assessment findings were, what was going to happen with treatment, and what the goals would be. This is very old, 2009. So I just wanted to show it as an example, as something that we put into practice right from the beginning. If a client comes in that's haven't been referred from their family doctor, with that client's permission, we also sent a note back to the family doctor because, we wanted that family doctor to say, hey, like Jackie turned up on our doorstep with shoulder pain, like, maybe you could have sent them to us. So I feel like that's been something that we have been very consistent with. And again, technology has changed the way we communicate those assessment, progress, and discharge findings to physicians, but it is something that we are consistently doing. Our other communication push for marketing was lunch and learns. And this is super common in the pharmaceutical industry. But even to this day, 26 years later, I had a lunch and learn today with a group of nurse practitioners and a family doc. And I am told more often than not that we're the only physiotherapy clinic that does this. It's a bit shocking to me that physios don't see this as an opportunity to be able to share what our profession can do as a whole. But this is something that we did right from the beginning and we continue to do today. Professional growth. Again, if you're building a clinic, I think that you need to reflect on what is going to make your clinic successful. If your clinic is only tied to your personal name, you may have some limited success, but it's not going to allow for that exponential growth. So we really committed from the beginning that we were going to grow our team and create opportunities in the hopes that we did not have physios leave us as they reach different milestones in their career. So, I mean, right from the get-go, when we hire a new grad, we have a very extensive new grad mentoring program. We do this to support our new graduates, but from a marketing standpoint, we do this because we want our new graduates to do well with our clients. We don't want to be marketing to the community that we're known for great shoulder treatment and then have that new grad flounder because they don't have that shoulder experience. Right from the beginning, we've done monthly foundational rounds. Those are opportunities where our core group of clinicians all gather and, sometimes we're practicing clinical skills. Some people could have upcoming exams. Someone might have just come back from a course. We have collaborative rounds that are actually between sometimes our administration team and our physio team. They could be an outside speaker. For example, we had a speaker come in around how to fill out workman's compensation forms so that you were giving good information to the employer to keep that returning employees safe at work. We've created streams of mentoring to produce leaders in all of these areas. So if you are interested in orthopedics, you're probably aware of the orthopedic division and doing courses and exams. Almost all of our partners have FCAMP status, including myself. There's pelvic physiotherapy streams that are available. We have physios that are mentoring there. We have sport physiotherapists. We have physios that are mentoring in concussion. All of this is tied to our marketing platform. Our marketing platform is education, whether we're educating our referral sources or we're educating our team. So this is very, I feel, unique to us in that this is a part of our business model. This is how we build out our programs. We have currently lead physiotherapists in shoulder, back, and knee roles, and you're going to learn why I've chosen those roles. Their main job that they get paid for is annually and every 3 months to look at the literature and make sure that our programming is staying up to speed with the evidence-based practices that are out there. And then, of course, from a professional growth standpoint, if your physios or your team are reaching a ceiling when it comes to clinical skill development, we're uniquely known to have those management positions that could be in a director role, could be in an ownership or an associate role. Those people have become shareholders in the business. We like our shareholders being physios that are working with our clients because that really holds us true to our clinical practice so that we grow business in a clinical framework versus growing our business in a business framework. And then, of course, the partners are people like myself that have a larger ownership, a larger shareholder ownership in the organization. And those are opportunities that we give to all of our physiotherapists. So if we think about the basic of marketing, hopefully you are walking away from this conversation that I'm super passionate about physiotherapy. So my passion is around evidence-based practice. I like to develop programs that really make a difference. The other thing that you have to think about with marketing is who are your top producers? We call them who are the people in our house. And I want you to think about an 80-20 rule. So getting back to that business plan slide, I've talked to you about our standard of care, and now we're going to think about that client population of who we're targeting. So again, I've always been a bit of a geeky person. I'm reading articles all of the time, and it became very clear to us that we were going to focus on these areas in orthopedics. We're going to focus on the shoulder, the back, and the knee. And we right back in 1997, before pelvic physiotherapy even had direct access, we started pelvic physiotherapy because it had level A evidence to say that physiotherapy would work. There were barriers in Ontario back in 1997 that anyone that was accessing a pelvic physiotherapist had to have a delegated referral from their family doc because the physiotherapist didn't have that within their scope to do an internal exam without that delegation. But once we got past those hoops, when you looked at the research, it had level A evidence. Concussion management is another good example. We were the first clinic to start a concussion program, and again, pulled from the research and really take it to the level that, for anyone that's interested in concussion management, Catherine Schneider is one of Canada's leading concussion physiotherapists. And we went to Calgary and we visited her and her team and how they set up their concussion treatment. So we are very committed to following that evidence-based practice. So the other thing that I would say, and when you're first beginning, you can think about marketing in a couple different ways. if I'm really truthful, when we first opened that clinic, it did not matter what body part you had any pain in, we took you. We had to pay rent. So we treated anybody and everyone that came in for physiotherapy. But what we knew, because of that passion for looking at research, that we were going to focus on those areas. And then we were going to collect data as to how our practice was running. And it's really important for you to evaluate that data. So I didn't recognize this right from the beginning, but this is how I mentor people now that are opening clinics. Right from the beginning, I would urge you to know where you're getting your clients from. So when you did your business plan, you had an idea as to who you were going to market to, but you don't know that they're going to send any clients. So if you start to collect that data, then you will start to see where you're getting your clients from. And I've worked with physios that have had a clinic for 5 years, and I will say to them, who's your top 5 referral sources? And they will look at me like, what? I'm like, are you not collecting that information? So that is my strong message for you, is data is very important. So for us, it became very apparent in the beginning that the medical community was by far our biggest referring source. So think about that 80-20 rule. If I'm getting 80% of my referrals from family docs and specialists, I'm going to spend 80% of my time developing material that meets their needs. Hence the orthopedic readings, then the evidence-based reviews, then the lunch and learns. We did other community marketing strategies that we called grand rounds, where we would bring in different specialists, and we'd actually bring in, sometimes they were geared to the community. So our concussion grand rounds, we had Ken Dryden as a guest speaker. That was the moderator, but we brought in experts in the medical community, and the public could come and ask questions. When we did our shoulder grand rounds, it was actually for physiotherapists, chiros, whoever wanted to come and learn about what happens in a shoulder surgery, what happens when someone has an ultrasound done. So that marketing piece follows that theme of education, because that was our passion. And at the same time, it was targeting that medical community, because we were collecting that data to recognize, hey, this is a big referring source for us. You'll remember from the business plan talk, we also talked about geography. So for us, the community around the clinic was really important. A lot of our clinics are very close to high schools. So we were in the high schools doing those educational talks, meeting with coaches. From there, we went into minor sport teams. We spent time sitting on boards. And again, collecting data as to how does that translate into return on investment? Do these people end up coming to the clinic or not? What I can tell you from our experience is, if you do well with your clients will be your best referral source in the future. So again, based on that data, I can tell you that when we first started the clinic, that 80% of our referrals came from the medical community, and now 90% come from clients that either were at the clinic themselves, or they'll tell us on our intake that they are there because a family member recommended, a friend recommended. So this is good data to think about. And the other thing that I'll share with you is our strategic plan for this year is every new assessment that we see, we want 75% of those new assessments to be from one of our word of mouth categories. Right now, our clinics are sitting at about 61% of our assessments are coming from word of mouth categories. Because if we can do well with the people that we have already captured in the door, and we can build that relationship in that trust, those are much easier relationships to manage than putting a cold call, sponsored ad on Google and hope that someone sees it. These relationships can drive your marketing platform much quicker. So 80-20 rule, I always invest 80% of my time, at 80% of my resources on where I'm getting my information from, or where I'm getting my clients from. So this is what I was talking about. Like, we started to collect data. This is very, very old. It's an Excel sheet because we had to manually collect it. We started our clinics when there were no computerized schedules. So, when someone would call the clinic, we'd write it down in our book. And then, I would enter this in and I'd see who were our top doctors year after year. And I made sure these doctors received information from us. I made sure that they got those orthopedic readings because I wanted to invest 80% of the minimal time that I had. I was already seeing patients 35 and 40 hours a week. And then you had to find on time on top of that to be able to, first of all, track this data and know where you were going to spend your time. So don't minimize collecting the data, because that will save you a lot of time later, because you'll notice those referral trends. It's not a secret. If you go to our website, you will see that while we were interested in shoulder, back, knee, we didn't really know if they were going to gain traction. And I can tell you there are other joints or programs that didn't gain traction. So again, your passion is going to drive what you like to treat. And then you're going to track that data to see, do you get the return on investment? Because I get asked all the time by staff, why don't on our website, we have a tennis elbow brochure? And I will say to our staff, because tennis elbow on a monthly basis isn't even on the radar. Does it happen? Of course it's out there, but I'm not going to pay a graphic design artist to do a brochure on tennis elbow, to, put all of that effort, or to pay for Google AdWords when we just don't see enough of it. Instead, I'm going to take, 80% of my marketing budget and I'm going to put it into shoulder, back, knee, because we do well at it. And we do see that by far those are 80% of our clients. So again, this gets back to tracking. Now, thinking about pelvic health, back in 1997, we recognized that it was level 8 evidence out there. So we put the program together, we marketed it, but it had all these barriers that it never was in our top joints because it just had so many barriers. But it was a thing that we didn't spend a ton of time on in the beginning when all those barriers were there, but we kept the drip or the message consistent out there. And when that barrier changed and we no longer needed that special referral, it exponentially grew because we already had that consistent and repeated message out there. But it wasn't that we were investing a lot of time on it. It was more that it was just staying underneath the radar. So I always say, you can throw mud at the wall. It's always good to put new ideas out there. But if you're not tracking it, you're not going to know moving forwards what you should be spending your time on. So that is talking about the drip method, and lots of marketing, basic strategies will talk about the drip method. And I like to make sure that anything that we do for 3 months before I expect a positive or a negative conclusion to come out of that. And you need to know, or I feel like I need to know over that 3-month period, that I've been consistent with that message. You can't do one postcard drop to your neighborhood and you didn't get any single client out of it, so you're never ever doing it again. You do want to try whatever method you're trying repeated times so that you can see, do you get a result? The other thing is, you'll see that we have this layered onion approach to our drip method. So if I'm going to do an orthopedic reading and distribute it to the medical community on rotator cuff tendonitis, I'm going to have my marketing team follow up with those physicians to try and book those lunch and learns. I'm going to make sure that my social media for that same time period talks about shoulders, so that if someone happens to see our social media ad and turns up at their doctor's office and says, "Oh, I saw this ad from Eramosa Physio on rotator cuff pain," hopefully that doctor is also like, "Oh, I saw something about them sending about the shoulder too. Oh, right, they're known for the shoulder." So again, when we think about the drip method, we are trying to create a funnel where we have multiple touch points that are eventually leading that client to us and to whether it's our online booking platform or making that call to the clinic. But again, consistency is the key. And the other thing that I constantly see from people, because it's hard in the beginning, you're wearing a lot of hats if you're actually starting your own practice. Even if you're working as an independent contractor and you turn up at someone's practice, and typically as an independent contractor, you may get some new patients from the organization that you're working for, the brand that you're working for. But more often than not, that independent contractor is actually responsible for going out and finding their own clients. Our professional staff don't have that extra layer of responsibility because we have a robust marketing plan. They know that at minimum, they're going to get one new patient every single shift just by coming to work. If it's not one, it's two, it's three. But the reason for our success with having that constant new patient stream coming into the clinic is because we take the time to plan it out. So again, you'll see those touch points of all of the different things that we will have out there that will follow a similar theme. You'll notice that our previous and our current client touch points is now in our number one spot. So we'll want to make sure that we have different types of communication or touch points with those clients. Again, we're an educational platform. So COVID helped us in some ways develop skill set around technologies like this. So we have a very confident team that does webinars that we don't charge anyone for. We've had people from all over the world attend our male pelvic health webinars on, Movember's month. Um, I mean, concussion webinars from all over the world, people attending. So, and even thinking of that, you may think, well, why would they do that? Someone from New Zealand isn't turning up at their clinic for concussion care. However, we got that drip out into the community about saying, come attend this free webinar. And then we're also paying for Google AdWords. And then we're also marketing to minor sport teams. And then we're also marketing to sport docs, ER. All of that is funneling those concussion people down into that end result of booking that appointment. And again, it's all done over a strategic period of time. So planning it out is very important so that you can visually look at it and see that you have a drip method and that you have multiple touch points to try and funnel that person to your clinic. So this is us. This is what we're known for. I love it when I'm out in the community and people are like, "Oh yeah, you're the clinic that's always out teaching people," because that is really what we do. Someone's joining in a bit late. So marketing, that is our education is our culture at our as part of our business platform. We're marketing to our team of physiotherapists because if we can't educate and get the buy-in from our team, it doesn't matter what we put out into the community. We need to make sure that our team is ready to receive those people. Just like if you're going to be marketing your own services, even within your team, if you are a Pilates physio and you want to use Pilates as a tool, you can't just sit there and wait for your colleagues to send you Pilates people. You need to be able to educate them on how is that going to support your colleagues and their clients in achieving their clients' goals. You need to think about those referral sources. They're going to be largely medical referral sources, but you may find that you're consistently getting other referral sources. An example could be different companies. Sometimes we call them our industrial referral sources, will actually be under our community banner, because again, looking at what community are you servicing. So if you are a multi funding clinic like we are, we offer physiotherapy care to everyone. We don't say to a family doctor, you know what, we only want to see the people that have private insurance. We don't want to deal with the paperwork of MVA. We don't want to deal with the paperwork of WSIB. We just always felt that that was not really fair to that referring physician, like really asking them to only send me your like nice easy paperwork people. So we do have some referral sources that come from those more difficult referring sources, whether it's WSIB directly or it could be a local company that you're working for. But again, that's all going to be part of that, either your community banner or your referral source banner. So I think I would say that in summary, when we think about marketing, it's always going to be about creating trusting relationships. And I absolutely think that everyone will tie that to the actual client that they're seeing. And certainly creating that relationship with the client once you get them in the door is incredibly important. And making sure that you actually ask that client for their recommendation and their referral. It's often something that physios struggle with when we talk to our team about, if someone says, oh, like I had no idea that physiotherapy was going to help. I haven't been able to sleep on this shoulder for 6 months, and now I'm getting a great night's rest. You need to be able to have the confidence to say, oh, that's amazing. I would love it if you would give a Google review, because there are a lot of people out there that might not know that physiotherapy can help. Or when we send out our follow-up with our clients, we ask our clients not only for a client satisfaction survey, we ask them for a Google review. We ask them to give these 2 business cards to their friends. These are all done at different times of our client relationship. So we create that drip with our client. All of that applies to the referral source. And in the beginning, if you're opening a clinic, you're obviously spending a lot of time on those referral sources, because those are going to be the things that get the clients in the door. And then, of course, the last thing is that you have to have the same type of marketing strategy within your team. If you're opening a clinic and you want your clinic to be the brand, then you need to have your team prepared to be able to deliver the services that you're marketing, that your brand delivers. If you're an individual working on a team that you want your colleagues to refer to you, then you're similarly going to have to educate your colleagues on how you can support them. So that would be my marketing in a nutshell, and I'm hoping that there are going to be lots of questions so that we can keep it really practical. So I'll end the show here. What do you guys think? Is there any questions? People? Thoughts? Silent group. I would have thought I would have got some questions around digital marketing in particular. You guys can hear me? I'm starting to think I don't want to ramble. Yep. Okay, good. We do a joint presentation on marketing a little bit later on, and there is some good conversation that often happens with respect to digital marketing. So if you're in the graduating class, Usually Greg will have myself and another physio come in to try and talk about some of that digital marketing as part of this overall picture. But, recognize that digital marketing is that another layer of that large onion. And it is a layer for us that we are constantly improving upon. But it is often a layer we find when it comes to social media that it really does require a level of relatability. So I feel like a lot of the physios that use social media to market the services tend to be sort of one physio clinics, or they're really kind of promoting their own services. But there definitely is value, and we have seen value with having that social media presence as part of that overall drip. Okay, so here's questions. So, I mean, feel free to look at our Instagram and our Facebook. That'll give you a bit of an idea. Hopefully, again, you'll see that there's very consistent content on the EPA site around shoulder, back, knee. Our women's health site, we have that same top focus. So because we know we've collected data, we know that, we're primarily seeing people for incontinence, pelvic pain, prolapse pregnancy. So we tend to have a lot of content focused around those top areas. I would also say from a digital standpoint that consistency is also important. We do tend to have an educational platform, so we're often even sharing different community programs that are going on that we feel are credible and important kind of educational pieces. Um, we have a Google AdWord campaign as one of our methods for that digital marketing piece. So, while at the same time we have grown to have a full-time marketing and communications coordinator that isn't exclusive to social media, but does manage this whole process. So we have our social media platforms, we have a Google AdWord campaign, and then, the thing that we haven't invested a lot of money in is actually search engine optimization, where you're paying someone to really troll through your website and create those keywords. Do you think that social media, do you find that social media is such an Instagram and Facebook are effective word of mouth? For us, so we do track it. So I can tell you that people do identify that they found the clinic from Instagram or Facebook. We do pay for some sponsored social media ad placement, and we do have a lot of our own content that will happen as well. It's not our biggest referral source by any stretch. Our previous clients are incredibly off the charts, our biggest referral source, and our medical community still outnumbers our social media influx. But it is, I think, still important, even though we might not be seeing that data with clients saying, "Hey, I found you on Facebook." Maybe by the time they turned up at the clinic and we asked them, "How did you find out about the clinic?" And they say, "Oh, my friend told me." Their friend told them about us, and then seeing that Facebook ad just reminded them to come in. So I personally think that it is still an important piece, even though we're not necessarily seeing the numbers. I've heard from other pelvic floor physios that they've had difficulty with insurance companies recognizing pelvic floor physiotherapy. We have not had that problem. Sometimes you have to think about how much information you're offering insurance companies. I don't think that is at all an issue anymore. But if you're giving someone an invoice that is specifically saying pelvic physiotherapy, There could be some insurance companies that wonder, well, what exactly is pelvic physiotherapy? I mean, we don't give someone an invoice that says shoulder physiotherapy, ankle physiotherapy. So our invoices all just say physiotherapy. So, maybe that's why we don't have any problems. We're not obligated, unless asked for it and with the client's permission, we would never share why the person's actually getting physiotherapy. What percentage of your total expenses are incurred from marketing? Yeah, good question. Um, it's low, and I'm horrible with numbers. But I would say it's about maybe 5 to 10%. It's not a lot because a lot of our marketing is done on that educational platform. So it's more time that is our cost. So if our physios are out doing talks, we're paying them in some capacity to do that talk. But I often wonder, like, for example, we spend $6,500 a month on Google AdWords. And the way that AdWord tracking works, if someone clicks on that Google ad and calls the clinic, they're not actually calling the clinic with our normal telephone number. They're calling it through a tracking telephone number. So then I can cross-reference those people calling the clinic to all the assessments seen in the same period of time. And I can see what percentage of people came in because of that. So we actually always end up seeing more clients that more than pay for what we spent on that Google AdWord. So sometimes I wonder if we spent more on that potential vehicle, whether that would generate more leads. So we haven't run the business with having that sort of generic goal that marketing is going to be 20% of our budget or 10%. It kind of ends up just being whatever it is. And our kind of simple rule would be we'd always look at what we spent the previous year and try and stay within that range. But again, because our marketing has mostly been through our clients and our medical doctors, it hasn't been something that's been super expensive. So long answer, I don't have a percentage because it's not something that we even really track, but I might go look at it because we just finished our year end to see what percentage it was. This may be specific, but how do you go about marketing prior to opening a clinic to raise awareness of the new clinic? Any opening day marketing strategies? So, before you're going to open your clinic, I would say you need to have at least a 60-day window period, at minimum a 30-day window period that you can communicate with your brainstorm list of referral sources. So when we're opening a clinic, medical doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, midwives, those are all on our hit list for people that we would expect to send us clients. So at least a month before we're opening, we're turning up on those people's doorsteps with packages and information about the clinic. Likewise, we might go into local businesses and introduce ourselves in that geographic community or like-minded businesses. We might go to gyms. So you want to generate some awareness that way. And that's kind of, getting on the path and putting some time in like that. The digital piece is often a really important piece as well. Having your website that is as seamless as you can get it working, so that when your target client lands on that website, ideally, can they book online? Is it a seamless process to click on a link to be able to book? Having that ready at least 30 days before, looking at different ways to do press releases, whether that's, in our cities, there's really not a paper that's delivered, but there is a digital newspaper that you can send in press releases, about the opening of your clinic. And social media is a huge kind of piece of that too, where you'll see whether you're a clinic or an independent practitioner, you'll often see those announcements. And, you can generate your Instagram page for your business, but unless you have followers, then you're not going to get your message out. So, I'm not a social media expert, but again, looking in your community and like searching those hashtags that may be, if you're the women's health clinic and one of your target areas is pregnancy and you do hashtag pregnancy well, you are going to see who else is on social media that is servicing that pregnancy niche. And you can look at what their business platform looks like, and you can make direct reach outs to them. So those are all pretty common strategies that I think are used regularly for clinics that are opening and preparing for that opening day. How does the process of staff physios becoming shareholders or partners work? So ultimately, I like to think, and someone asked me one day, their question was, it seems like you handpick your shareholders and associates. I'm like, of course we do, because when we're looking for our shareholders, associates, directors, partners, we're looking for people that naturally are inspired by that balancing act of being a clinician and being an entrepreneur. We have amazing physios that have zero business interest, and you can really readily see that, as well as we have formal processes where we solicit their 3 and 5 year goals at their annual review. So we're going to start to hear from those physios who have a potential business interest, and from there we want to see, well, how do they practice? What does their practice look like next to our philosophy? We're a clinic that is definitely a skilled manual therapy clinic. We believe that exercise has an incredible role. We believe in education. We use other modalities like IMS, acupuncture, some of the passive modalities. But if all you're going to do is acupuncture on your clients, you're probably not going to become a shareholder in our business, because our business is a multimodality practice, because that's where the evidence does lie within the physiotherapy world. It's really hard to look at any one of those tools and know, if you only use it exclusively, that you're going to get the same results. So we look for clinicians that have similar philosophies. We look for clinicians that have an interest in becoming an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, to become a shareholder, as an example, does mean you're buying shares in a business. So that has a cost associated with it. So as a shareholder buying shares, we want all of our shareholders to be people that are motivated and inspired to see the business grow under a clinical banner. We don't want to bring shareholders on that. And I mean, we don't attract those type of clinicians that are only motivated by money. So, and not that that's a bad thing. Everyone has to pay their bills, and it's everyone wants to make a good living, but you probably wouldn't be happy in our environment working if you were a physio that was really only motivated by seeing as many possible people as you can, because we have natural stop holds that are there to ensure that the clients are getting that direct physiotherapy care. So I don't know if that was a good answer, but I mean, our process is, trying to make sure, because it's always a bit surprising to me, that to make sure that our staff is aware that these opportunities do exist. But we are looking for people that naturally show those characteristics. I haven't had to deal with any opportunity where a physio comes to me that says they want to be a shareholder, and when you watch them practice, they wouldn't be necessarily gelling with our philosophy. I think the shareholders, the physios that stay with us for the long term, naturally are those similar like-minded physios. But like I said, we have a lot of amazing physios that have zero interest in managing the business or taking on that financial risk. So they are very equally as happy just to come to work, see the clients that are provided for them. And, some of them are still clinical mentors and work with other physios, but just don't have any business interest. Scroll down here, shareholders, marketing strategies, percentage of income. Okay, I don't know. I think I got most of the questions in the chat. You all, I think, have my email, which is just Jackie@eramosaphysio.com. If there's any other questions that come up. Someone's typing. I think that you'll likely at the end of this student success series get an email from Emily, who's our marketing and communications coordinator, on the lines of mentoring. We do have our own in-house orthopedic courses that are coming up that we wanted to be able to share with you guys. And I think there's going to be some kind of discount code for those courses. So you guys can watch for that email. If you thought you wanted to take a short course, we like to think of them as good preparation courses for those physios that want to go on and take the AIM courses, but maybe don't want to make that investment in the AIM courses because they can be a little bit costly. So look for that email, and if that interests you, we would welcome you joining us. And I think that someone else is typing. It might be just people saying goodbye. Amazing. Looks like all our questions are done. So thanks for joining me. And next week, I think it's Craig presenting on the sport physio role, which is another stream that you can pursue if you're specifically interested in sport physio. And then Kristen, my business partner, is presenting the last week on information around the pros and cons and the differences between looking at contracts where you're working as an independent contractor versus if you're working as an employee like our physios are working with us. So hopefully you guys can attend those talks, and otherwise have a great night. Bye.